Afternoon everyone, hope you're all okay, keeping occupied, finding things to do around the home. Those of you that aren't going out, those of you that are still working, to all of you. I'm not doing anything in the garden today. I need to get ready for work in about an hour. I'm on a late shift tonight, but I nipped out for a short while this morning and got some food stuff from the shop for an elderly chap that lives in one of the villages that I patrol. So I managed to get what he needed, and I'll take that into work with me later and I'll be able to drop that off. But that's all you can do at the moment, isn't it? It's just help one another. It's very, very strange. But, you know, you watch social media, there's some amazing things going on. People are actually really, really inventive. And I think everybody thought because of technology and social media and kids on computer games and that we'd lost the ability to use our imaginations and to be kind. But it's clearly still there. It's just been suppressed for so long. So I think this is probably one of the best things that's come out to it. The sense of community is growing. And the Thursday night 8 PM clap, we've done that 2 weeks running now. First week was for the NHS. Last night was for the NHS, but also for other key workers that are keeping the country going. And it was a fantastic turnout. And you could hear saucepan lids being banged together, bells and whistles and all sorts from afar. You could just hear it floating on the wind. So that was quite emotional last night. So as far as the garden's concerned, can't really show you anything today. I took some footage yesterday which I'll add in. Something I did want to say while I think of it, I have got a Facebook page, and it's Kitchen Garden Living on the Veg. If you'd like to make your way over to that, if you've got any pictures of your gardens or things you're doing in the garden to keep occupied, feel free to post on there. It'd be lovely to see what you're all up to, and hopefully that'll bring us all a little bit closer as well. So I've just tidied up the loganberries, so they're all got lots of side shoots on, so hopefully we'll get some good fruit this year. I'm in the greenhouse again because I've just given everything a really good soaking, and I've still got some trays in a water bath. But it just got me thinking, I wanted to show these sweet corn that are coming up. I've got 3 in that row and another one there, and there's another one coming up there. And I remembered that a couple of years ago I did some regular snapshots of a sweet corn plant from its germination right up to being on the plate. So I thought I'd add that to the video because I thought it was quite interesting, so I hope you enjoy it. Oh, it's me again. It's a beautiful afternoon. It is Saturday afternoon. I am still in my pyjamas, so that's why you've only got a headshot. And it is, let me see the time. It's 2:30. I've got half an hour and I've got to get ready for work because I'm on a late shift again tonight, not finishing till midnight. So I've been lounging about in my PJs since I got up at 8 this morning. I've done a few bits though. I've managed to make a list of some jobs that I want to do in the garden over the coming weeks. I don't know what the weather's going to do, but I've made a list of what I want to achieve. So one thing I've noticed today, now the sun is out, is that the glass on the greenhouse, both inside and out, need a really good clean. So that's something I'm going to have to do. I've also got to move the bird feeder because I want to put up my bean frames, and the bed they're going in is where the bird feeder is standing, so it's going to be in the way. So I need to move that to a suitable spot in the garden. Okay, so, and then obviously create the bean frames. And I might actually tomorrow morning, if it's nice, sow some beans and sow some beans in pots in the greenhouse and start to plant my main crop potatoes. Another thing I need to do in the coming week is to remove the remainder of the cauliflowers and prep the soil for the next lot of plants to go in. I want to jet wash the slabs on my patio and tidy the patio up because it's a bit of a dumping ground at the moment. But obviously I'm going to get some seating out there. I want to sow some carrots, so I might even do that tomorrow. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the last of the sun before I go to work. So, catch up with you soon. Right, today I'm going to sow my beans. So I've saved seed from last year. So the first ones are These are Scarlet Emperor runner bean. So I'm going to sow those first. And then I have got my Blotti, which I was really impressed with last year. First time I'd grown it, so that's a Blotti. These are the Cobra, the climbing bean, which is my absolute favourite, I think. And I grow these every year and have done for years. Really reliable, really prolific, good cropping, so yeah, a favourite. And this is one I started last year, I'd not done either. This is the French climbing bean, which has a flat yellow pod, and they were really, really delicious. Now, the difference between these are the French climbing, and the runner beans. You can eat them all when they're young pods. You eat the whole thing. The Blotti, you grow them not for the pods, but for the beans themselves. So that's the difference with those. And then I didn't save any seed last year for these, but I've still got plenty. And that is the dwarf purple. Oh no, this is amethyst. I think I did Purple King last year or the year before. So that's another one that you eat the whole pod. So these are my staples. And I'm going to do these ones now. I'll just give you another look at them. It's just so beautiful. I love the feel of them when you hold them. Right, just a few things I wanted to mention before I start sowing these seeds is if you have never grown anything from seed before, I'm sure most of you have, but just if you haven't, what you may have done if you've grown veg in the past, you may have just bought small plants from the garden centre. One of the things I do, if I do ever buy anything from the garden centre, I never throw the pots away, so it'll save you a lot of money in the long time. But what you need to do, you need to wash them before you use them for another plant, and very much like personal hygiene, you don't want to spread any disease or infections. So if you just wash your pots in some antibacterial washing up liquid or a mild disinfectant, give them a good scrub and let them dry, and then store them. I always store them stacked upside down in the greenhouse, and then they're ready to go when you're the right season. So that's what I've done with all these, and that's why I've got all these old containers. I don't waste anything. Another thing when you sow seeds, rule of thumb is you sow them as deep as the seed is in size. So if this bean is about, I'll show you, it's almost an inch long, some are a bit longer. So I plant them a good inch deep, and same with the other. So with really tiny seeds, you just scatter them on the surface and then lightly cover them with some sifted compost. And I never water them for the top, because if you do that, the seeds are just going to float around, and where you might have tried to space them out a bit, they're all going to clump together where the water settles. So I always stand them in a water bath for a good 20 minutes until you see the soil at the top start to look damp, and then I'll remove them. And I'll probably do that once a week when they start to dry out. So I'm going to crack on now and show you what I'm doing. So the first seeds I'm going to sow are my runner beans. I don't think there's many kitchen gardens that won't have runner beans growing, so you can see those, that's my beans. I'm going to put 2 per cell, because you have to remember that not every seed will germinate. If you're lucky they will, but you can't guarantee. So if you plant 2 per cell, then the odds are you're going to have a plant in each cell. So I've got 6 cells, so I'll have 12 beans, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 'Kay, so I've got 12 beans, 2 per cell, and I'm going to sow them about as deep as the size of the seed. The compost is damp, but I will still give it a thorough soaking to make sure all the compost is damp. And then once a week they'll just get a, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, maybe longer, soak in a water bath just to replenish the soil. Just pushing them in. Can't remember what the germination time is. These, I think they're probably, as the weather gets warmer, it'd be quicker. Might be something like 7 days, but you might have to look that up. And always label what you sow, because it's so easy to forget. And with beans, a lot of them look the same, and until you actually get the pod, you might be mistaken in what you think you're growing. So these are my French climbing. Push them in the soil. You can direct sow these as well, straight into the soil out in the garden, but I like to start them off in pots, because when they start to germinate and you have the young shoots, you get a lot of pests. I have a lot of earwigs in this garden, and they absolutely ravage my beans when they're young seedlings. They can strip them of all their leaves overnight, so I like to get them quite established before they go in the ground, and that gives them a much better chance of survival. So again, I'm putting 2 per pot. And then I'll cover them up again. So again, 2 per cell. Push them in. And when you save your own beans, it just saves you a lot of money, and you don't have to keep going out buying packets. See that? I'm going to cover them up now. Right, for the blotty, I have got 4 pots, so 2 in each pot. I'll put them in. There's about 1/2 inch, 1.5 centimetres deep. I'm putting 2 in a pot, but I might actually fill another pot up so that I've got 10 plants rather than just the 8, but I'll cover that up. If you do collect your seeds, you need them to dry out completely before you store them, because if any are slightly damp and you store them in a sealed jar or a sealed bag, then they're going to sweat, and then once they sweat they'll rot and they'll kill off all of them. So store them ideally in paper envelopes or glass jars, but make sure they're thoroughly dry before you do so. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to put some water in this tray now and give them a good soak. The water's about 1/2 inch deep. It's a big tray. I'll keep an eye on that for about 20 minutes, and as soon as the soil on the surface starts to darken, I know that it's absorbed enough right the way through each pot. I'll take them aside and drain them off a bit so not dripping everywhere, and then hopefully that should keep them going for about a week, and then I will top them up again. One thing I will mention, again, if you're fairly new to this, you don't have, it doesn't matter really as they're seeds at the moment, but with say my seedlings here, if you're growing seedlings, you don't want to put them into any shock. So when you water them, what you really need to do ideally is if you've got a water butt, then use rainwater. It's obviously far better than anything. But if you're going to use tap water, fill your watering can up and then leave it either in the sun or if you've got a greenhouse or polytunnel, leave it in the polytunnel until the temperature of the water comes up to, or an ambient temperature, the temperature of the greenhouse or where you're growing the seeds, and then water them. Because if you put ice cold water from the tap on them, you could put them into shock. So you want your water at room temperature. Okay, I'm going to go and have a coffee now.